Right. So I just need to check some stuff first. I turned off the music, so there's literally no sound except for this right now. But yeah, it's just because music DMCA's, you know, don't want to deal with that shit. Alright, let's begin the game. Alright. Well, gonna start off really quick. Just get enough to be able to buy a hint so that we can actually save a slot, get a save slot here. Alright. Alright. We can start playing through the game now. Out of all things I remember as a child, this is still a fond one, a fond memory playing this game. There is some slight music in this, so that's a bit annoying because I can still probably get like the video claimed from this. Not that like I expect that I'll be getting a YouTube partnership in any reasonable amount of time from here on. Like it'll take years if it ever happens, but it is just I just don't want to have any of my videos claimed, like at least from now on. Just if I can avoid it, I'd like to. So yeah, let's just get right into the game. Because yeah, these games, they're my childhood, but I know they're a lot of other people's childhoods as well. They're just great. Let's get the first mini kit here. Like I'm not gonna do too much on like getting studs and trying to like get a true Jedi right now. We'll do that later. Right now, let's just get through this and get the mini kits and stuff. Right. Let's just keep going with this stuff. It shouldn't be too bad at all. Alright. Ah man, it's weird to be playing this again a little bit. Just because, well, how much of my childhood it was. As little of my childhood as I still remember. Ah well. Bittersweet, for sure. Like, it feels bittersweet. It's not as much as, like, when we get into the original trilogy stuff, because that was the first LEGO game that I actually had, was the original trilogy one, not the complete saga. Though, I did play a lot of the complete saga. Still, the original trilogy was definitely one I played a lot of. There we go. Let's see if I can... Ah, fuck. Well, let's just get through this. Just... It's hard to comment on it because I'm not exactly sure what to say. It's just so much. Like, these games... just puts me in a good mood to play them. Or at least this one. Because it's just so much of my childhood as well. Oh man. Also the droidicas. Again, every fucking interpretation of the droidicas, it changes every time they try and do something new with them. Like you look at Battlefront and they have a limited shield. You look at this game, it's only lightsabers of their own shots that can like destroy their shields. And just, yeah. There we go. Come on. There we go. Let's just do this. Alright, okay. He's gonna go that way, that's fine. Oh man. I'm not talking a lot right now. I will later for sure, but it's just hard to describe. Hard to describe. Let's get the stuff up here. Oh man. And it's also like the way that these games are is just... I'll switch to that one then. The AI in the early Lego games isn't great and is unable to contribute. I believe in later one, like in the most recent ones, they actually are able to contribute, but I'm not sure on that. It's definitely something though. Anyway, let's just keep going. I'm able to skip this, right? I feel like I should be able to. Whatever. Is my controller not working? Okay. Well, let's continue on with Phantom Menace. I did notice something while playing this earlier, though, because I was playing it a little bit just like to try and like get some memories back. But one thing I did notice was that the prequel missions are always a lot shorter than the ones in the original trilogy. This one is a bit annoying because it doesn't matter. But here, let's just get through this. I'll talk about it a little bit more later. Here, let me also not hear myself double, because that's also another thing that's keeping me from being able to like properly talk. So an interesting thing about this mission I noticed was that the droids will only seem to attack you if you actually run into them. Otherwise they'll just run past, which was not something I noticed as a kid, but definitely do now. I'm missing a lot of stuff, but like when we go through this on free play, we'll get it all. It's just for now. I'm just gonna skip it. Get done with the actual story stuff about as fast as we can, and definitely get on to free play as quick as we can, because I think we can get this done pretty quickly. Like, this shouldn't be too many streams, I don't think. It'll still take a while, because these games are decently long, but yeah, it's just not too long. I will say that the eventual like kind of time trial stuff that this game does, I do find incredibly annoying, because I don't know, I just don't like it, is really all it comes down to. There we go. Alright. Get that. And now we can start doing this. Alright. And I don't think... Oh, it will actually attack Jar Jar. I didn't know that the droids would do that. I generally don't even play with him, though, so... Makes sense that I didn't know that. Anyway. We can get the minikit up here just by doing that. Because I'll like try and get minikits if I can remember where they are, and if they're like easy to get and don't really take time out of things. But otherwise I'll just skip them and get them later. Because I do remember there's one down here. This one's not too hard to get. And then we'll just keep moving on. I mean, there was another one earlier on that I could have gotten that is pretty easy to get as well. I actually don't know where all of them are, because I haven't ever like played through this game 100%. There is stuff that I do remember from like when I was a kid, though, like very particular things, like the fact that there is a mini kit underneath that that MTT, I believe they're called, that like kind of troop transport things like this here. Back a ways, there's a mini kit under the one that we destroy. There's also like one in here. Actually, it's kind of funny that they're all just like in these areas. They're very easy to get to. At least some of them are, anyway. I feel like in original trilogy they were harder to find, but that could just be me projecting as like, because I was much younger when I played original trilogy compared to, well, when I played complete Saga. Let me try that. Complete Saga without my voice cracking there. I have a feeling that this like this playthrough won't get as much views as later stuff will, but I still want to play it just because Yakuza can't really play that right now because it's not working, and I don't want to play Old Republic at the moment just because it's a lot of work and just tiring to me to play it sometimes. So I just want to play something that's easy to get through, something that's pretty fun to play as well. And I mean, not that Old Republic isn't fun to play or anything, it's just, I don't know, how do I put it? It can just be exhausting at times, because like having to balance through looking at the website that I use for all the stuff just to make sure that I'm not messing anything up. It's just, it can be exhausting. I've definitely been trying to think about what we should play next, or what I should play next, but I'm not really sure. I'm thinking maybe Assassin's Creed, but I don't know. If I do that, I'm actually gonna unprivatize, or like remove my other like older videos in Assassin's Creed from being privated and make them public again, but I don't even know if I want to do that. And it's just because I don't want to replay all of the beginning of Assassin's Creed again. I don't know. Maybe we should play Total War? I don't know. Somebody did mention horror games, so I might actually play Alien Isolation. But I'm still not sure. Just thinking about stuff that maybe we can play. For now, we're going to play this for a little bit. Actually, I think I want to actually finish this before anything else. If we can get it done in a reasonable amount of time. I mean, we're already like 3 missions in and it's been 10 minutes, so we should be able to get this done with pretty quickly. The old aiming mechanics in these games. It's clunky as hell. Okay. Also, the like, I feel like blaster characters are kind of bad just because of how clunky they always feel. Just because they don't, like, seem to do as well. Like, yeah, that, where they can't really dodge or block anything. Just feels like the Jedi characters are so much better in this game. Maybe I should play Battlefield. Or Battlefront, either or. Like, just as something else to play on stream, because I do like playing that, and that wouldn't be too bad to play on stream, so I might do that. That could be fun. What else? Oh, that could be really fun, actually. I haven't played that really on stream at all. I mean, I kind of did a little bit. It was my debut, so... Still, I don't know. Could be fun. This series, though. Star Wars has always had a soft spot in my heart as well. I mean, I feel like that's the same for a lot of people, though. But yeah, it's just a series that I like. The prequels are interesting. I mean, I won't say their writing is good, because, oh man, I talked about it, though, in my Old Republic stuff, about how I feel about the prequels compared to the original trilogy, about how I think the original trilogy was like, I don't know, it just felt like there was more there. Like it wasn't trying to, I don't know, it's difficult to explain. Still, like, it's just, it's its own mood, it's its own series. It's not the same kind of Star Wars as everything else, but not in a bad way. Sorry, the prequels, not the... Did I say the sequels or the prequels? I mean the prequel trilogy. The prequels felt different, but not in a bad way. And okay, I think I realized where I messed up. So the reason... I just caught this in my head, though. So basically, what I meant to say is the original trilogy and the prequel trilogy. I think that the prequel trilogy is good, but in a very different way, and that it's more like memeable, and there was actually like a purpose behind it. It was thought out, and at least in a little bit, in a sense, it was thought out. The original trilogy feels more sporadic, but at the same time, in a good way. It feels like it was maybe not trying to build up a world, but rather that we were just placed in the galaxy far, far away without really any explanation. But not that it was done in a bad way, because you can do that kind of like create a series where it's not really explaining what's going on. That can be bad. That can be difficult and just like maybe pretentious is the right word. It's just like you'd rather explain stuff sometimes, but other times it can be here. Let me regather my thoughts here. So here, rather than not explaining anything, sometimes it can be better to explain stuff. However, the original trilogy did not do that. It went about showing the Star Wars universe without really explaining too much about anything. It let viewers kind of experience it as they watched, to learn more about it as they watched, to learn stuff about like the Republic and the Empire through not seeing it but hearing stuff about it. Like, and almost nothing about it though. Like, you basically don't hear anything, but you can still get a sense that there was something greater before, well, the modern period, at least in the, like, I'm talking about the original trilogy as well, just that alone. You can tell that there was something greater, there was something more before the original trilogy happened, though it's never really explicitly stated what. Neither is like how the Empire came to be, and then later after Darth Vader is revealed to be Luke's father, like anything about any of that, or like how they Luke and Leia, their siblings, that's not explained really either. It basically comes down to Lucas was able to tell a story without explaining much, but get away with it in a way that was appealing. Because it wasn't bad. Like, the story wasn't bad at all. It was intriguing, it had people watching it, and it was interesting. There wasn't really too much bad you could say about it. And that's basically perfect. That's what you will want to be doing with a story like that. You don't want it to seem like, how do I describe it? I keep getting out of focus with what I'm thinking, but basically you don't want it to be too unfamiliar, but you don't want it to be too familiar as well. You put them in the universe and don't explain stuff, but make it more natural by having a character that's somewhat outside of the the way that things are. Helps you be able to go about explaining the world without too much exposition. If they don't know things, then having people explain stuff helps. Like, the perfect example of this is Obi-Wan's introduction in A New Hope, where he talks about Anakin, and not just that, he talks about, what is it? I'm trying to remember. Oh yeah, like the Republic and the Empire, the Dark Times, stuff like that. Stuff that we wouldn't see for years because we wouldn't get the prequels for years. But it's almost perfect how it's, well, maybe not perfect, but it's very interesting how it was described, because you watch the original trilogy, you see the way that he talks about everything, and it provides this sense that there is something deeper that's not been explained, and likely won't get explained. It actually wasn't explained. Like with mentions of the Republic, with how Anakin is supposed to be the best star pilot in the galaxy, or something like that. Like, it gives us some character about who Luke's father was, and like kind of describes stuff about that, all that, but it doesn't go into too deep of detail, and it keeps people intrigued. Yet the point isn't to explain stuff, and it's exactly the point, is to keep people in the dark about it. It's how do I properly go about explaining this? Because I'm also like trying to focus on this as well. So How do I describe this properly? It's frustrating trying to figure this out. Because there is a way to best describe this that I'm just not getting at it, or like haven't wrapped my head around. I'll get to it, but just trying to think. How do you... Well, it's also like kind of a bit of a lazy thing as well, I guess, is kind of what I'm trying to get to. It is a bit lazy to not exposize, to keep your viewers in the dark, but you can do it in a way that makes it work. You can present it in a way that makes it so that despite it being so shadowy and so unexplained to the point where it could be annoying, you can also like not... Man, it's really difficult to explain this. Fuck. Yeah. Basically, what it comes down to is when you're telling a story like that, you can exposize and try and create a universe, or you can avoid doing so, which can work. Like, both ways can and can't work. In the case of Star Wars, the original trilogy was able to get away with not explaining the universe or galaxy all that well, and it still worked as a story. It was still interesting, people still liked it, because what was there was interesting enough that it made people want to know more. Which, I don't know, it's just, there's that, and then it's also that it was able to tell a good story on top of that as well. It wasn't like it was relying upon its backstory. Its backstory was there to help people get an interest about like what happened and all that, but it wasn't the main point. And I don't know, maybe it's... I think part of it is also that I was born at the era... Like, I was born around the time the prequels were releasing, so I didn't really know the original trilogy by itself. I knew the prequels and the original trilogy together. So I don't really get the whole viewpoint of someone who has watched the original trilogy and then like had years before they watched the prequels. Because to me, I already knew stuff about like what the Republic was, that that Vader was already Luke's father. I already knew all that, so it wasn't like new to me. But it's weird to think that it wasn't there beforehand is really the thing about it. Like looking, like when I rewatched them very recently, I still have trouble like understanding that none of the prequels were written before the original trilogy. And the original trilogy was its own self-contained thing. But at the same time, all the references and stuff still, I don't know, they mesh with it really well, is basically what I'm trying to get to. And in a way that it works, but I'm wondering how it would have been for someone who just watched the original trilogy by itself. Like, what they would have thought about mentions about the Republic, about how the Empire didn't always exist, or maybe that's not the right word, but how, like, it came to be the galactic power, why there's a rebellion, how everything happened, how all the Jedi were killed, the Clone Wars, which is, like, just basically a throwaway line. But yeah, like, how all that happened. Because there's, like, no mention of battle droids or anything like that either. It's just the Clone Wars, period. But at the same time, it somehow worked. I don't know, it's difficult to describe. But it's also, like, something else I noticed was, like, while watching Empire Strikes Back, there's stuff like the worm and Mirelurks. Like, if you watch the modern Star Wars like stuff, like Rogue One or Solo, it's interesting because there's definitely a world already built, and they're playing off of that. And I feel like Star Wars can't ever go back to what it was in the original trilogy, just due to the fact that so much has changed since then. Like, you can't have everything be so mysterious, so unexplained with all the background like it was in the original trilogy. because there's so much that exists now. Like with Solo, they talk about like Mylark roasts or something. I remember that throwaway line. But like we already know what a Mylark is from the original trilogy. But like even then, come to think of it, in what's it called? Fuck, I'm trying to remember. Why have I lost my train of thought this badly? Fuck. What was I thinking? Shit. This is really annoying. Because I'm trying to, like, play the game while talking about this, and it's just difficult to do both at the same time. What was it that I'm thinking of? Damn it! Oh, right. So, in the original trilogy, there's stuff that still isn't really explained. Like, and that's another thing about it, too. Some of the stuff about the original trilogy and, like, about Star Wars as a whole, I feel like doesn't need to be there anymore. Like, the fact that Yoda's species and stuff like that has never been explained. At the same time, there's been so much expanded universe stuff where, like, members of Yoda's species have shown up before as Jedi and stuff. It basically has come to a point where that mystery doesn't matter anymore. Because there's so much, everything else in Star Wars is so thoroughly explained. It's not like Yoda is this big mystery anymore. It's just that, like, his species has existed as, as Jedi before. That means that his species does exist. He's likely not the last one, just, it creates an interesting, I don't know, perspective maybe? It just creates an interesting situation because although it's not been explained, it's not like it really matters anymore. In fact, I almost view it as pretentious at this point because so much of everything else has been explained in the universe. So, as to give an example, let me think. Well, I guess, yeah, Yoda is the biggest example of it. Sorry, as stuff that has been explained. Well, Expanded Universe basically explains all of it, but I guess also the prequels and, like, the Clone Wars stuff. I feel like the whole thing of not explaining Yoda is almost a hold-on old tradition in Star Wars. It's just trying to make it still fantasized, even though there's really no reason to at this point. In fact, it's almost counterproductive in a way, just because of how much else of the universe has been explained, and it has, like, this really convoluted lore at this point. Where there's stuff like Legends and Canon both have convoluted lores at this point. Though I think Canon not as much as Legends, though it's probably going to get to there at some point. I don't know. I'm kind of rambling. It's just its own thing. Like that. Also, what I was going to get into was stuff like... Oh, what's it called? What was it called? Oh, right. The trash compactor monster? Stuff's not really explained like that. The trash compactor monster just kind of exists. I don't think it's really talked about in any of the lore or anything. It's just there in the original trilogy movie. Yeah, and then there's also, like, the worm from... Yes, I'm well aware. There's also, like, the worm from Empire Strikes Back that's also just... It's there, it's not really talked about. And that is a bit interesting as well. Like, I don't know if there's any other mention of stuff like that in any other source of media for Star Wars. It's just interesting. But also, I feel like something like that wouldn't happen in modern Star Wars as well, because it's so strange, yet it's just good with how it is in like Empire Strikes Back, where they are on this worm, or like in this worm's mouth or stomach or whatever, and they don't realize it until so late in. It's just interesting. It's really what it comes down to, because I don't know. It's like that kind of campy sci-fi. Yeah, that's exactly it. Actually, it's that campy sci-fi that doesn't really exist anymore. Where like they go in, where like the main heroes go in and find like that worm. What the fuck? Oh, right. where they're like trying to escape. They go to some place, like hide in the asteroid belt. There's a worm there that they end up like going into the stomach of. That's how they escape, and then as soon as they figure it out, they try and get out, and they're just barely able to get out as the mouth closes. At the same time, there's stuff like the Millennium Falcon is breaking down the entire time. It's just campy sci-fi, but done in a really good way, I think. I don't know. Maybe I'm just maybe a bit too passionate about it, maybe? I don't know. Alright. Let's go about this then. What else? I guess this game. This game does pretty good at adapting the movies. Like, all the LEGO games do really good at adapting their specific media that they're adapting. They are not bad at their original stuff as well, at least like with the LEGO Batman stuff, or at least like the original game was good, I thought. I grew up on these games. These games are... what? Like, I think they were the first video games I ever played. But damn, they still hold up, for sure. At least I think so. Traveler's Tales, they did really good. Like, they made a name for themselves with these fucking games. They made a monopoly, almost, or basically, because they're like the only ones who are able to make LEGO games, if I remember correctly. Like, they did well. They did really well. Alright. I feel like that one back there had something else, like another particular thing about it. Like that room we were just in. I can't remember. Oh, another thing I kind of remember about like these games was that, if I remember correctly, like some of the like sets, the scenes, like stuff like this, were actually built out of like cake and stuff. And that was like the original way that they designed it. And I could be wrong. I could be misremembering stuff. But yeah, it's just, I don't know. It just fits so well with my memories. It's really just a big nostalgia trip is basically what this has become. Like, every time I talk, I'm just thinking in nostalgia. Maybe not the most charming or interesting stream, but I don't know, I like it. It's just good memories is what it comes down to. I think that's nice, if nothing else. What do I feel like? Is this the right way? I feel like there was something else. I could be wrong, though. Nope, this is it. Okay. Because, yeah, the rest of the stuff, or the rest of the pilots are over this way. Yeah, not talking as much as I would in other streams. I don't know, it's also like I don't know what to talk about today is really what it comes down to as well. And like I can't rely on the game to really give me much conversation. I don't know, it's just... yeah, and it's also like, I'm a bit tired as well. A little bit, anyway. And the nostalgia's going... yeah. Alright, we were talking... or at least I was talking about, something else I should stream. What should I stream, though? It's just... I don't know. This game... this game is just good. I mean, it's so many people's childhoods. Hey, Tyler. Still... what else is there? Well, I mean, there's also, like, the other thing... I believe this game put in the Super Story thing, which is, basically where you play through the story of these games, and you're supposed to get through it in an hour and get, I believe, 100,000, or maybe it's 10,000 studs in it. Which, I feel would be difficult, but I know, like, the whole extra things exist in this game. And I feel like, as long as I'm allowed to use those, I should be completely fine for doing the Super Story stuff later on. Not that I really have to worry about that now. It's just right now I have to get through this, get through all the story stuff, unlock the characters, and start doing free play stuff after that, which will in itself be pretty fun. And then do all the time-based stuff, which is going to be really annoying. Oh, one thing. I have a really old game guide for this game. Like, back when it released, like one of those magazine kinds of game guides. So, when we actually get to the free play stuff, I'll just be using that instead of, like, having my computer to the side of me, which I would usually have with a guide open. But instead, I'm actually going to use a real game guide, which, I don't know. I just kind of like the novelty of it, because stuff like this wouldn't get printed anymore because the internet exists, and you can just, for free, find stuff like where all the mini kits are, stuff like that. But at the same time, it's just the holy text, yeah. Something I did notice about it, though, was what was I gonna say? Oh, right. It is very comprehensive. There's a lot of like well-made maps that, like, if you've played the game, you actually know where everything is. Like, you can see where it all is, and it's just very detailed and very nice the way it goes about showing it. And also, like, it'll tell you how to get all the mini kits and stuff. It's just nice, especially since, yeah, again, you wouldn't see it in a modern like a modern Lego game. You wouldn't see a game guide like this exist because the internet exists. So I don't know, it's like a relic of its time, basically. That's what I'm trying to get at. What else about it? Because there was another thing I was going to say. Alright, it was, it's also, like, I don't think you'd see the kind of quality of the maps that are in this guide in, just, like a, let me get this mini kit really quick. In a guide that you'd see nowadays. You wouldn't see the quality of it because they wouldn't bother with it. They just either like link you a video or just show pictures of it. They wouldn't actually take the time to construct a map for the game. Like the effort that was put into this. It's just crazy. And I'm not even sure if it's like official or anything. It probably is, but I'm not sure. So it's just weird to think about back in the day that the internet didn't exist for stuff like this. I don't know. Anyway, we're almost done with Phantom Menace, and we're about 30 minutes in. Like I said earlier, though, the prequels are, what, it's free, so most people don't want to put in the effort. Yeah, right. That makes sense for sure. The other thing I was going to mention, though, was, like I said earlier, though, the prequel levels in this are just so much shorter than the original trilogy ones, which makes sense that the prequel levels were the original game and then original trilogy was afterwards, which is weird to think. Weird to say because it sounds just awkward. But yeah, so like it's almost discrepancy. It's like a discrepancy in that. There's also like mechanics that are in this part of the game that aren't in the later one. Most notably the targets that blaster characters use. Those aren't in original trilogy, I don't think. And also just like, but also some stuff did get moved on though. There's stuff like what is it? The grappling hook that blaster characters use, like that got passed on. It's just interesting to see how it changed, like, because it does feel a bit unrefined because they didn't change the games at all when they put them together. So there is a bit, like, there's discrepancies in them. It's just interesting. What the hell? Sorry. But yeah, you can see, oh god, this is really annoying. Fuck this level. I hate this part so much. It's so awkward. Because you have to kill them, but they'll kill the officer ones, but they'll infinitely spawn these lower ranking ones. And it just gets out of hand too quickly. Oh, god. Also the mechanics of, like, these games aren't hard to win, they're hard to complete. I remember that being like a description I've heard for them, which just fits true. It's just like, fuck. They also don't control very well compared to modern games, which is another big thing. And like the blocking in this is a bit awkward and finicky. because sometimes it won't work. Usually it does, but sometimes. Which I guess is like one of the good things as to why the extras exist, because I feel like this game would be so much more frustrating to 100% if it wasn't for the fact that the basically cheats exist in this game through the extra system. Like getting the red bricks and getting like invincibility for your characters. Otherwise this would be so bullshit to try in 100%. Which I guess is a mercy, so to say. Also, it's really nice. Actually, you know what? Rather than talk about how they ported this game, let's see. I don't have many games when I was little, so how much of this game? Yeah, my dad tried to do that once, but our save got deleted for it. What was I saying though? Oh, right. So one thing about this game that, or rather not about this game, but rather this movie that I find funny is, what the hell is this place? Like, why does this exist? It's never explained. It's just this random place where there's just a massive hole here that goes to fuck knows, and it's never explained why it's here or anything. And I just find it funny, like, what is the point of this place? As far as I know, there is none, and it just exists, but it's funny to think about. Because I can't even think of, like, a practical use for this place. Especially with, like, just a dangerous hole that doesn't have, like, any railings or anything on it. And, like, what those, basically force fields were. That's not explained either as to why they exist. It's just... It seems very... Like, if you put any thought to it, it immediately breaks down as to why this exists, because it's not explained, never explained later. It just doesn't make any sense, but it's kind of funny. And also, like, why are those nodes there? It's just funny to think about. But yeah, so that's 40 minutes and we're done with Phantom Menace. So yeah, we'll get through this game quick. Probably only a couple of streams. I'm not sure. Maybe 10? Nah, 10 seems like a far too few. But, I don't know. Under 50, I think, if I actually go through and 100% this. Just because it's not a very long game, either. Or, actually, then again, like I said, prequel trilogy game levels are a lot shorter. So... I might eat my words when we get into original trilogy. Also this. People have mentioned how that this also isn't explained as like what the ball is or anything. Oh, and another thing I was thinking, like when I played this by myself, was obviously Lucas thought that this wouldn't be successful, or maybe not obviously, but I feel like Lucas might have thought that this wasn't going to be successful enough to make it, because the way it ends feels like it could have been self-contained, because it doesn't like lead up anything later. It feels very strange in the grand scheme of all the other prequel movies, because it doesn't really like relate to them almost at all, except for Qui-Gon's dead and Anakin's found. But I feel like we couldn't have, like, if we weren't given this movie, people would still be able to understand the entire plot of the prequels perfectly well, just due to context. Maybe the whole thing with Palpatine, but even then I feel like they could have just done that in Attack of the Clones instead of all the like bullshit romance, like boring romance stuff that they did instead, and that also would have worked. I don't know. I feel like the Phantom Menace is just kind of the worst out of all of them, just because it doesn't contribute to anything. Like Attack of the Clones sets up so much more than Phantom Menace does. It's almost like they could have gotten rid of it and the series would have been perfectly fine. That's basically what I'm trying to get to, is that Phantom Menace could not exist and the prequels would still work because of how little it contributes to everything. I don't know. Also, I think like the rest of them are far more interesting than the Phantom Menace. I think that was also the most boring out of all the prequels, because fuck all happens in it. Like, you get some stuff at the end with like actually, well, basically just the fight with Maul is really the only interesting thing that happens in pretty much all of Phantom Menace, because the rest of it's all just boring bullshit and politics that nobody is interested in. Ugh. I don't know. Well, I guess kind of, because one of the great things about the prequels, like in hindsight, what about the most important scene ever? That's in Attack of the Clones, not Phantom Menace, and that is a very important scene. But other than that, like, a lot of the romance, quote unquote romance stuff is very, very dry and boring. God, the fact that, like, I feel like this level is kind of strange compared to the rest of them, just because how much creative liberties they decided for this. Trying to think if original trilogy has any levels that are like this, where it feels like their existence is unnecessary or weird. I can't really think of any. Maybe Dagobah, but even then, that one fits really well. Let me think. Oh, the Mos Eisley one probably is the closest I can think of in original trilogy of being a useless level. But even then, yeah, because that could have all been a cutscene. But yeah, because New Hope was very nice in that it had, what was it? Fuck, it had the entire Death Star thing divided up into 2 levels, which kept, so basically kept boring shit from being in it. Because then it was just 2 levels of Death Star. What else? I'm trying to think. Yeah, I don't know. I think original trilogy was just a more solid game than this one as well. Is really what it comes down to, and also like how boring the fucking the prequels are in comparison as well. Because I mean, I'm surprised we don't have a whole romance Padme fucking level in this game. Just considering, like, this is in there when Obi-Wan's on Kamino is in there. But man, the actually, you know what? That wouldn't have been in, but what would have been in is Anakin killing all of the Tusken Raiders. The women and the children, too. I just imagine that as, like, a level that you play through, where it's like you get an icon at the top where it's like how many Tusken Raider children have you killed yet, and it just ticks down each one. It crosses off their heads every time you kill one. It's almost too dark, but I find it hilarious. Like, just as a concept. Oh man, I hope that's in the Skywalker Saga, actually, now that I think about it. Also the scene where Anakin kills all the younglings. Hopefully that also makes it into the Skywalker Saga. Oh, can't wait to do that. Oh, and it's the same thing we did before, Trapped in the Arena, except this time there's 2 sides that we have to unlock. Also, the fact that, like, you can basically not dodge any of this stuff. Like I said, this game isn't hard to win, it's just hard to, like, not die and be held back. It's all just levels of frustration, but not anything that really sets you back at all. I don't know. I'm not trying to be... I guess I am kind of trying to be critical of it, but I'm not trying to say that it's bad. It's just its own thing. It's just strange, I guess what I'm getting at. Also, this is just fucking annoying, trying to get this to work. Please. Because you have to be very particular with it in order for it to register, and half the time it doesn't do it. Ugh. Still, we can get this. Come on. Fuck. And it's also just like all the quality of life stuff that's in the later Lego games as well that isn't in this, like the fucking fact that you can't aim with weapons and like, because that's something that the Batman games added, was where you could have a cursor down and then it automatically aim for you, because trying to do it without that is just fucking horrible and just not well optimized in the slightest. Also, the PC controls in this are just terrible. It was never made for PC. Which is exactly why I'm using a controller, because this would be practically unplayable otherwise, I think. But yeah, some poor choices aside with this game, it's still really fun to play regardless. I mean, it is a product of its time is kind of the thing as well. Like, maybe if it was released earlier, or like, rather, I guess actually, the Skywalker Saga is basically the exact explanation of what I'm trying to say, but just done quicker. Is, well, that's basically going to get rid of all the really annoying things in this, because it's off of years of experience Traveler's Tales has had with making these games, compared to this where it's like their first time trying this, and it's clunky though acceptable and actually quite fun. Just building off that and making it more, I don't know, refined with more quality of life stuff. It's just nice. Or at least it will be, at least I think so. Yeah. I'm definitely interested to play that. No, I just realized, with the Skywalker Saga, that means that Traveler's Tales has gone full circle with the LEGO stuff now. They've started and are basically going to be at Star Wars again. I don't know, that's... I kind of like that. It's also just, like, new... I don't know. It's kind of a remake, is what I'm starting to think about as well. I'm really curious what they're going to do for the prequels as well, since the LEGO games are now open world, which they weren't back then, like when this game was created. Because there wasn't like that precedent of creating open world games, which exists now. But it does create, I don't know. How do I describe it exactly? It's just weird because of the way that gaming has also changed over the years. I mean, this is an early 2000s game, which is hard to think about. I mean, I watched the trailer of original trilogy, like the original trilogy game recently, and it was weird to me how much of it I recognized, yet at the same time how campy it is nowadays. Like if you compare it to trailers now, it's just really out of place. Because it's got like a whole narrator thing with it. Like the Honest Game Trailers guy, or Honest Movie Trailers guy basically on it. Which would not happen now, but it's definitely interesting to see how it has changed. Because, yeah, it's a much different environment there. And also, like, would a lot of the... kind of concepts in this game be accepted by a modern audience? I'm not sure, because like this game doesn't have any voice acting in it at all, which I guess, well, it was acceptable for the time, but I haven't heard any game that doesn't have voice acting or like a storyline or plot in it in like a modern day. Like even if you look at like Battlefront 1, where it was like a multiplayer only game, it still had like voice acting and stuff. It wasn't like, games nowadays have a lot more effort put into them, and I don't know, it's kind of weird to think like if this game would be accepted now or not, just because of how different things are now. I don't know, I feel like I'm kind of being a rambling old man or something like that, just remembering a better time or something like that, but it's also just a lot of nostalgia as well. I don't know. What do you think? It's kind of what I'm trying to get at. Like, is it too much as well? Like, what I'm going at? Am I just being too much, or I don't know? I feel like this is kind of a problem of mine as well, is that I'm so indecisive on stuff. And it creates situations where I just don't decide on something I'm talking about, and like almost, how should I say, pull back on a point that I'm trying to make because I feel like I could be wrong on it, which is something I probably shouldn't do as much as I do. Oh shit, I just remembered this. Definitely interesting compared to like, yeah, because like this stuff doesn't exist in the actual movie. I don't know. It's weird to think about. Yeah, they took some liberties with this game for sure. Curious what's in here. I don't actually remember what this does. What the hell? I feel like... Oh, I was expecting a mini kit. Weird. I think you could. Also, I think that Lego games hold up. Yeah, I think so as well. I just, I feel like if it was created today is basically what I'm trying to say. Like, I don't know if it would still be accepted if it was created in nowadays. Like, at the time, and as a product of its time, it's perfectly fine. But I doubt that it actually would be considered acceptable if it was created now. Still, I feel one thing about it though is the Lego games are pretty much the only good adaptation games out there. They almost perfectly adaptate their source material and in a way that works. And it's because it's almost a parody of the original material, I think. Like, rather than trying to make it one for one everything, they like take creative liberties, like with this and like the grappling hook that you get with the blaster characters. But also like this scene, it's not in the movie at all. There's nothing like this in the movie, but it still works because they took creative liberties and like had it be a chase scene rather than Obi-Wan pretty much just following behind what's his name? I can't remember. Oh shit. I feel like... Oh, okay. Following behind Jango Fett, which is what it actually is in the movie. It's not like this big action chase scene. But it works better this way, like as a game perspective, and also still adaptates the movies perfectly fine. And like even as it's changed, because I've played the Lord of the Rings one, and that one's still able to properly, how should I say, like explain the story of the Lord of the Rings while also being a parody of it and being a fun game to play, which is the big thing about it as well. It's supposed to be fun to play, but the fact that it's also able to be a decent adaptation is in itself kind of interesting. Anyway, let's get through this. Like, because again, this stuff doesn't happen in the movie. There's no thing that attacks Obi-Wan while he's going after Jango Fett. But in the game, the creative liberty allows it to actually be entertaining. Also, like, the droid didn't go with him, but it's two-player. It's two-player co-op. They also give you something to do for the other player, despite the fact you don't like get to shoot or kill anyone or anything like that. You can still do these puzzles that help out people, like especially as we're getting to here. The person who plays the droid will get to like turn on these anti-air missiles that distract the ship, though you don't actually have to do that, because I realized while playing through this, if you just... I'm just going to show this, actually. It's easier to show than to explain what I'm going to get at here. Alright, so you can just block Jango's shots here. Just let this happen rather than actually attack him. And here we go. Basically, I realized that all you have to do is just spam the attack button and it'll block the shots of Slave 1 at the same, like, just quickly. And if you do this, it's basically, you don't have to actually use the anti-air missile things at all, because it doesn't move fast enough to be able to get you. And even when you're trying to block him, you can block Slave 1's shots fast enough that he's not able to actually, or like it's not able to actually hurt you, which I find hilarious. So let's just get to this also. Fucking stop running, bitch. The fact that you have to use the force in order to do stuff as well, which is actually really interesting mechanic for this game that I actually quite like is that they make the Force part of the boss battles. And I do remember someone like mentioning how they basically make the boss battles very natural to the series, where it is stuff like Obi-Wan fighting Jango is made into a boss. Like, even if they're not difficult, they're still unique, because like with Count Dooku, he'll stop one of you from being able to move, so the other person has to go in and attack him. Like, you have to switch characters in order to do it. Or like Maul, as we saw earlier, he's across the way, so we have to like force push stuff into him and also like block the shots of the droids. It's just creative game design that works really well, and is also still generally faithful to the original material as well. I think we're going to be done today as well, because it's basically been an hour stream and I want to be done. And I started early, so yeah. Thanks for showing up, by the way, Tyler. Alright, I'm going to go into standby.